From the land of frozen lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, it's another episode of 10K Takes Television, and certainly plenty to chew on. But what in the name of Rod Carew happened with the Minnesota Twins last week as they peddle Luis Arraez, the batting champ, to Miami?
Yeah, and Luis Arraez, I mean, he's probably the closest thing you've had to Rod Carew since Rod Carew, his batting stance, his style, the fact that Rodney has been mentoring him either through texts or phone calls or whatever it is that they do.
Spray hitter,
yeah.
Foul line to foul line.
Yeah, and fouling off 100 pitches till he gets the one he likes. The only thing he didn't do, of course, because they don't have intentional walks anymore, was stand there and swing at the first two pitches to get two strikes on to invite the pitcher to actually pitch to him. Do you remember when Rod used to do that? He would actually swing at a couple of those bad balls, say, "I dare you to pitch to me," and occasionally they would. But they take away a guy, they trade away a guy, I should say, that was their leading hitter, was the American League batting champion, denied Aaron Judge the Triple Crown. I don't know. They need pitching. There's no question about that. Pablo Lopez will certainly fill part of the void there. Hopefully he stays healthy. He's had his own health concerns, which makes him a perfect fit for the Minnesota Twins if he's got injury concerns. But I don't think that the Twins value the Arraez type of hitter as much as they do, say, Joey Gallo. It's swinging for the fences.
That's obvious. Gallo's on the Twins, and Arraez is down there swimming with the Marlins in Florida. But the thing about Luis Arraez, certainly he was a Swiss Army knife guy. He could play multiple positions, so he had utility values. He also was durable. He was in 140-plus games last season for the Minnesota Twins. And as we know, that's Cal Ripken-like. I mean, this team's wrapped in, saran wrap and bubble wrap and all that stuff. They coddle these guys a lot. And he's a magician at the plate. Now, he's not a defensive wizard.
No.
He's not, a gold glove guy, but I think fans liked him. He won a batting title. Like you said, he denied Aaron Judge the Triple Crown. And he's gone now. We'll see how he does down there in Miami. But Pablo Lopez, the most wins he's had in a season is 10. In his ERA last year with a 10-10 record, I believe, was 3.75. So they're going to need to get at least 12 to 15 wins out of Pablo Lopez and get a guy who stays on the mound, once every 5 days. Isn't on the DL or the, injured reserve or whatever they call it now. So, time will tell. You definitely want more pitching. But I'm not sure they sold any tickets with this move.
No, and that's probably not what they were aiming for here. They hope to sell tickets by winning baseball games, and they hope that this will lead to more W's somehow, some way. And one of my biggest reservations about a deal like this is trading an everyday player, something you just mentioned, a guy that was in 140-plus games last year, for somebody who throws once every 5 days. Now, if he turns out to be your number one or number two starter and is effective and, can win 12 to 15 games and gives you 6 innings if Rocco will allow it, then, maybe this works out for him.
And this might be minutia, and this is digging in the weeds. So he was 10-10 last season. But he was in the NL East, which has Atlanta, Philadelphia, the New York Mets, Washington, not that good. But those are 3 stud teams that he was facing a lot. Now he comes to the AL Central, where, you have Cleveland, and then what, right? Detroit, Kansas City, the Chicago White Sox. That might translate into a better record if he can stay on the mound once every 5th day.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about wins and losses as a pitcher as I am with ERA and how many innings are you going to be on the mound for me, and how many, can you pitch 6, 7+ innings? Because that's what the Twins need for that bullpen, man. They need their starters to go deeper into the game so that bullpen is not exposed as much as it was last season.
Well, and the Twins also, They've been wheeling and dealing, Derek Falvey and Thad Levine. They've got Michael A. Taylor
They
now
added
from
some
Kansas
defense,
City.
yep.
He's a Gold Glove outfielder. That's an interesting move. They've certainly put a premium on defense,
Right.
and I think that's a good move. You have to value guys who can, catch the ball, throw the ball, do the little things, because you win with defense in any sport, and it gets overshadowed sometimes and eclipsed by, guys like Aaron Judge hitting 62, 63 home runs. It sometimes gets pushed to the background. But without good defense, you don't win.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, so they bring in Michael A. Taylor, and they hope that they don't have to use him a lot. I mean, unless they're going to make another move. But if you look at them defensively, so does Alex Kirilloff then start as your opening day first baseman? If he's healthy, of course, that's another issue. Let's not forget, he missed, almost all of last season. Miranda then moves over and becomes your third baseman. Correa at short, Polanco at second. Vasquez behind the plate, your new catcher. So they've added some defensive pieces. I'm not sure that Kirilloff is an add at first base, probably a wash with Arise. Although the thing about Arise, he's small, but he's a second base. He's a middle infielder playing first base, so you do have that effect. You got a guy that can field the ground ball and can move a little bit more than your typical first baseman. And then your outfield probably right now is probably Joey Gallo in left and Buxton when he's healthy in center, and Max Kepler in right, and Michael A. Taylor whenever Buxton is hurt.
And where does Nick Gordon factor in all of this?
That's a good point.
I think the Twins have created some competition for when they go down to Florida and the Grapefruit League, and that's a good thing. You want guys battling for positions, knowing that, hey, I've got to earn this. It's not going to be given to me. And so we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Stick around. A lot more coming up. We will talk more baseball with the Twins great Joe Nathan right here on 10K Takes, your MLB ticket.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
And 10,000 Takes continues, and we'll continue to talk some baseball. The Carlos Correa deal is huge. Obviously, the trading of Luis Arraez, and we're going to talk to former Twins great and all-time leading closer in Minnesota Twins history. There he is, Joe Nathan. Joe, let's start out with the changes. It's been a sea of change for the Minnesota Twins here in the offseason. They pick up pitching. They solidify with Carlos Correa, who spent the season with them last year. What are your thoughts on all these moves that they have made?
Well, I think last time we spoke, we discussed there was a lot of things they kind of need to do on both ends of the spectrum as far as pitching, offense, stuff like that. So, the plus side of this is they're bringing in a guy with Lopez that made 32 starts last year. Very durable, seems like a reliable arm for them. Another guy they could plug in there and kind of give them, a little bit more solid rotation. And I think it at least answers a lot of questions on that side of it. Bringing over Correa, I think getting him back here, I think for me, what I saw of him last year, he seems like he's something they need in the clubhouse. That kind of leader that's out there, obviously playing the position he does. A lot of money, obviously, to bring him over, but at the same time, I think it's something they need to compete in this division. And then we go to the downside. You lose a guy like Arraez. I mean, that's a tough person to try to fill in. A guy that went out and won a Silver Slugger, and put up numbers like, I think he was 316 last year or something like that. So, to fill in that hole they're going to have, it will be tough. But at the same time, the Twins have to look at their positives and what they're bringing in and what they can do moving forward with what they have. I know they got some guys down in the minors that came up for a taste last year, and some guys that I think will be a huge part of this club, and I think those guys are going to get an opportunity as well.
Joe, from a pitcher's perspective, knowing that you have solid guys behind you playing defense. I mean, you got Byron Buxton, Gold Glove winner. Carlos Correa, Platinum Glove winner. They've added Christian Vasquez behind the plate. Very good with the glove as a catcher. Joey Gallo is a Gold Glove guy. Max Kepler can play right field about as well as anybody. Does that give you a little bit more comfort from a pitching perspective, knowing you have guys who can go get the ball, pick it or catch it?
That's 1,000%. I know, just to give you one piece, our defense was pretty good back then when we were playing too. But just to give you one guy that I usually tried to hope the ball was being hit to was Nick Punto. He was a guy that was a sure glove, and you knew if the ball was hit his way, he was going to make a play on it. And it seems like, these guys are going to have a plethora of those guys behind them. Now, obviously, everybody's got to stay on the field to stay healthy. That's always the name of the game. But for a pitcher to go out there and have the confidence that he's going to have 8 dudes that are looking to make a play for him and take pride in their defense. A guy that just got elected to the Hall of Fame in Scott Rowland, I was listening to a little bit of his talk and his interview, and he took more pride on the defensive side of the ball than he did offensively. And he just, kind of referenced to the fact that hitting's so difficult. And that's going to, it's going to come with ebbs and flows, but the defensive side you could take care of and be solid as consistently as you can. So to have those guys type of mindset behind you gives you confidence as a pitcher for sure.
And the acquisition of Pablo Lopez, and you already spoke to it a little bit, but he actually averaged about 6 innings per outing, which that's unlike any Twin. I mean, the Twins, of course, were quick to go to that bullpen, but that's got to help the bullpen, right? I mean, you got to be able to get guys into the 6th and sometimes the 7th inning, so that shortens it up. So the bullpen isn't out there every day. And when they are out there, they're not out there for 4 or 5 innings. Maybe they're out there for 2, maybe sometimes 3, right?
Absolutely. I think the game has definitely kind of swung, whether it's for the good or bad. I think it's swung to where, they're looking to get guys through 5 innings. And when that 3rd time rolls around in the lineup, they're trying to get these guys out of the game. For me, in my opinion, I think you still need some of that old school because, there's starts where I understand the numbers are going to say the 3rd time through the lineup is when guys' averages tend to climb. But there's also in the game of baseball when a dude just has a good night, and that guy's good night could be the guy on the mound, and he just might be good for 9 innings tonight. He might be good for 7, 8 innings, whatever it is. And the less your opponent sees of the bullpen, the better. When you're playing in those 3-4 game sets, one guy may be out there 3 of those games. And the more the other team sees them, especially as you get later in the season, they get more comfortable facing him. And usually the guys coming out of the pen are 2-pitch guys. So you kind of run out of surprises as you get later into the season. So the more a starter can take you deep into a game, obviously it's going to help your whole ball club out.
Yeah, eat up innings. What about position players too, Joe? I mean, we see a lot of guys, it seems like in this era, specifically the Twins, they're not out there every day. They're getting a lot of time off. Sometimes the injuries are legit. I don't want to downplay that. But we talked about this last week with Al Newman. Grinding. Knowing that you're signing up for the marathon, spring training to hopefully October, that you got to grind and be ready to go, don't you?
That's kind of, and again, that goes back to the old school. I think you got to kind of have that mindset. There's going to be days where you're going to go out there and feel 60%, 50%, and just know that there's days you're going to have to go out there and grind through some at bats and grind through some innings, but that's part of it. Them being out there and posting every day is sometimes more important. Now, granted, 162 games, I get it. Days off are going to come, and picking the right time to give those days off. Trying to plug a day off in for a guy when there's a day off the next day, so he gets 2 days in a row, and that can keep a guy healthier longer through a longer stretch. So there's definitely a lot of strategies that can go into where you give these days off. But yeah, the grind is, I think, going back to that old school way that we hopefully keep in this game as we move forward.
Several new rules are coming into effect: the shift and pitch clock. Tell me what you like or don't like about each of those.
To be honest, the shift I don't have a problem with. I think it's going to benefit some guys, and I think it's going to hurt some guys. I think that's really, I don't see that one. Maybe more so them having to play up on the dirt. I think that's gonna create some more base hits. I think it's going to be more exciting. I think it's going to help a lot of guys out, especially a guy like probably Joey Gallo.
Right.
It'll probably help a player like him out. And he's not going to be banging balls in the right field that has a third baseman playing shallow right and throwing him out at first base. So I like that, where it's going to create a little bit more excitement. The pitch clock, I don't think is to be honest, going to play a huge part. I got to experience it a little bit trying to come back in the minor leagues. And, for me, I just went out at first to see if it would affect me and see if I'd have to change. And for me, it was no big deal. There are going to be the exceptions to those rules. I think everybody knows the Kenley Jansen and stuff like that take a little bit longer in between. And, that's no knock on him. I mean, it works for him, but now he's going to have to work a little bit and change his ways a little bit. And I'm sure there's going to be an adjustment for him, but I'm sure he won't have a problem making that adjustment. It's stuff you could, kind of work on through spring training and just getting a sign. It's just about getting a sign quicker and starting your stuff a little bit earlier. The other rules, I think, to be honest, the one rule that is really tough for me is the pickoff rules.
Yeah.
You're really changing the game of baseball with that. And that one's going to be tough because, obviously they're trying to create, more offense, which, this whole thing should be about, from what we thought would be trying to create a quicker game, a more exciting game that's a little faster. Now, granted, there's going to be more stolen bases, which people like, but at the same time, that's going to extend innings. So that rule could actually turn around and bite us on the duration time of a ball game. But and then the bases. I mean, the bases are what they are. I think that's we got to see what this thing looks like. But, for the old school, again, guys, the optics of what the field's supposed to look like, I think that's going to be a huge adjustment, seeing these monster bases out there.
Yeah, it's all about optics. All right, I'm pro interleague. He's not. We're going to see it every day now. Everybody's going to play everybody. I think it's cool. I grew up in in SoCal, where you had the Angels and the Dodgers. I got used to watching the NL and the AL. Do you like that, Joe, as a player or ex-player?
I do. I think I like it.
Oh, you're killing me.
I mean, for me, I just remember when when interleagues kind of first got going, and it created excitement. It was exciting for the players as well as for the fans, getting to see a new team come in and kind of change things up like that. But I also think it's going to kind of balance things out a little bit, and kind of let teams play similar type of opponents, similar talented opponents. Sometimes when you're playing now, I still want to see in division, into the division games and getting down to it, and it comes down to that last week to see who gets in or who doesn't. So as long as that doesn't go away, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, well, we'll probably see the Pittsburgh Pirates here in town in a critical series in late September, but that's okay. Whatever works. Joe, appreciate it. I know you're going to be in town for Twins Fest this weekend. Hope to run into you there.
Look forward to it. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. He is Joe Nathan, the former Minnesota Twin, of course, their all-time leader in saves. We'll be back with more here on 10,000 Takes after this timeout.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back. 10,000 Takes rolls along. The NFL is winding its season down. Your Minnesota Vikings, of course, that got wound down a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. How close are they to the teams that remain? I mean, when I was watching the divisional playoffs last weekend, I was thinking to myself, man, they're not really that close. And they lost to the Giants, who got pummeled by Philadelphia. So where are the Vikings? And what decisions are they going to have to make? You got a bunch of guys with inflated salaries that you're probably going to have to part ways with, at least several of them. I don't know. I'm not too encouraged going forward. How about you?
Yeah, I would say this. Let's just look at the NFC. San Francisco, Philadelphia, stud defensive teams. The Minnesota Vikings are at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to defense. And they may lose some of their guys. You pointed out the cap hits
Danielle
that they're
Hunter.
going to take. They have to be very smart. Danielle Hunter, Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks. These are guys who have been around and
Patrick Peterson
been a big part of their success when they were good defensively. Yeah. So I don't think they're that close to being elite. But it is the NFL. Things can change overnight if you make the right moves and the right decisions. But they don't have a lot of extra cap room. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, it's a huge problem for them. And then on the offensive side, do you extend Kirk Cousins? That becomes the next question. And if you don't, you better have a young guy that you are grooming and or a plan for that going forward. And, then Dalvin Cook, I should say, do you continue to pay him the big money despite the fact that you didn't use him as much as they used him in the Zimmer era, which we kind of expected? Do you bring back Alexander Mattison and let Cook go? I mean, there's some decisions that they have to make. Adam Thielen, there's another one, because you're going to have to pay Justin Jefferson. There's no question about that. But where do you go from there?
Yeah, you got to give Justin Jefferson the keys to Fort Knox. That's a given.
No choice.
You've got to keep Kirk Cousins because you don't have a better option right now.
No doubt about that. But do you extend him beyond next season? Because his contract is up after the 23
I don't know
season.
if they do.
Yeah.
They're going to probably want to kick the tires on some possible options, but they're not going to draft high enough to get some of these young guns coming out like C.J. Stroud from Ohio State or Bryce Young from Alabama. Those guys will likely be gone when Minnesota chooses their draft choice.
Yeah. All right. Before we take a break, there's been a concept out there with your Minnesota Lynx. And I know that you have some thoughts on where the Lynx should go.
Yeah.
Out of doors.
Yeah. I started the concept, but I'm going to give the credit to Eric Spoelstra, the Miami Heat head coach.
Oh, okay.
He said 2 weeks ago, let's have an outdoor game in SoFlo. That would be South Florida. And let's pack the house and break that record they set at the Alamo Dome the other day with Golden State and San Antonio, 68K. So I got myself started thinking, how about the Minnesota Lynx playing an outdoor game, maybe at CHS Field or Allianz Field,
Huntington
or Target
Bank Stadium.
Field, or Huntington Bank Stadium. Yeah. Put them outside because you have the chance of playing in June, July, August. Those are typically good months in Minnesota. You might get some rain, but hey, the Twins and Saints seem to do well, right, in the summer in Minnesota United. How about an outdoor WNBA game? It would garner a lot of attention. I think it would be a cool gimmick. I think you could probably get 20,000 fans to show up. And you could sit there, look up at the stars or the sun and watch some hoops.
Outdoor hoops. Okay. We'll see. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Stay with us. Takes of the day coming up next. You won't want to miss that either.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
$10K takes on television as we get set to wrap up yet another episode. But before we go away, we're going to have takes of the day, and the Daktronics mood meter will tell us if you're an angry American, cranky Yankee, happy camper. Where do you land today?
Well, as you know, your favorite venue, U.S. Bank Stadium, the House of Noise, as you so call it, it has its issues, besides giving me, deaf ears and listening to the Vikings horns and music and everything else when I go to a Vikings game. But you got tiles falling from the ceiling and falling from the outside of the building. It kills birds. It doesn't have any championship banners to hang in it. There's tons of issues.
It's got a roof.
It has a roof. Well, it has half a roof, half glass. So there's all kinds of things along those lines. But did you know BuildWorld.co, it's a building company out of the UK, has named U.S. Bank Stadium in downtown Minneapolis as the ugliest building in the state of Minnesota, the 7th ugliest building in the United States of America, and the 12th ugliest building in the world. Yes, it is ugly, ugly, ugly. Like Aunt Esther ugly from Sanford and Son. That's how ugly. Ugliest building in the world, they named, this is from a survey that they did, Scottish Parliament in Edinburgh. That's number 1 in the world. Number 1 in the USA, the J. Edgar Hoover building in D.C. Of course, that's the FBI headquarters. But not too far down that list, your favorite sports venue, U.S. Bank Stadium, the House of Noise.
So finally, something representing Minnesota gets a high ranking.
A championship note.
The mood meter says you are an angry architect.
Clearly.
Burn the blueprints, right?
Burn it, baby. Burn, baby, burn.
All right, well, hard to argue with it, or buildingworld.com out of the UK. Hard to dispute what they just came up with. All right, well, my take of the day is this. We came very close, Wally, this weekend for the AFC Championship game being played at a neutral site. Had Buffalo knocked off Cincinnati, then the Chiefs and the Bills would have played in Atlanta.
Right.
Thankfully, that's not going to happen. We're going to have two great vibes. San Francisco and Philadelphia at the Link. It's going to be rocking in Philly. And then you've got Cincinnati and KC at Arrowhead, which to me has the greatest NFL energy of any of the stadiums on the National Football League map. But now I'm hearing rumors and rumblings that the Shield might, in the future, play the NFC and AFC title games at neutral sites.
Oh, boy.
Because, as we know, the NFL's a cash cow, and they can sell tickets to this and turn it into more of a corporate event, just like the Super Bowl, and take it out of the hands of the teams who earned it, in most cases, by winning a lot of games, such as Philadelphia, home field, Kansas City, same thing. If the NFL does this, I'm done. It makes me want to vomit. Are you kidding me? That you don't think what you're going to have this weekend, Philadelphia and Kansas City, isn't the way you want it? Plus, you know it'll be in a dome or a retractable roof venue with the thing sealed shut. No NFL. Roger Goodell, you've ruined this game. I don't even recognize it anymore. And if they go down this route, I'm done.
You're out, huh?
I am going to go European football.
Oh, boy. You mean soccer?
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Soccer. All the way.
Oh, Lord.
And baseball and hockey and basketball.
Well, there's college and high school football.
That's true.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's FedEx out those thank yous. One to
CFL,
David Weld.
Arena football.
One to Joe Nathan. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.